Good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Halcyon Show. My name's Lorne Risley. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm a bit early, sorry. It's one of those situations where I overcooked it a little bit, to be brutally honest with you. 6 o'clock was just a bit later than I probably should have done. I should have said 5:30 really. That's when I'm typically ready for these sorts of things. So I apologise for being early, but I'm in the spirit of trying to do live streams on a more frequent basis. I thought I'd hop on and discuss something that I've been meaning to kind of look into more recently than not, because again, it's one of those weird ass things that I love wrestling. I'm a big wrestling fan, or at least I try to be. I try to keep track of professional wrestling trends as and when they kind of present themselves. One of the weird crossovers that occurred about a year and a half ago is that I discovered the Shotty Horror, a battler that I've been chasing for an interview for a while, as you may have heard if you've ever watched one of my shows. He started up his own wrestling promotion, Sovereign Professional Wrestling, or SovPro. And it's weird because it's actually how I got introduced to Shotty in terms of an actual dialogue, is that one night me and him were shooting the shit about NXT. I think it was either a takeover show or something like that, where we were talking about booking things and things of that nature. So to see him actually nut up and pursue the dream of starting up a wrestling fed, something that all of us as wrestling fans, or rather as kids, would have dreamed of being able to do for a variety of different reasons. If no other reason than because if you don't watch wrestling now, I don't blame you. I don't hold it against you. If you look down on wrestling as a genre, I can a little bit, because I think you're looking past the artistry of it. But everyone, when they were a kid, doesn't matter for how fleeting a moment, was a wrestling fan. Especially my generation, when you had Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, Mankind, Undertaker, Kane, the New Age Outlaws, Al Snow, Rikishi, Too Cool, Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, all of these guys who, not to mention, like I said, I was slightly too young for this stuff, but like Trish Stratus, Lita, you know where I'm going with that, prepubescent teen, male, yeah, it's kind of your appointment television watching. But the point is that even if it was a brief moment as a kid, you were a wrestling fan, you wanted to hit someone with a finisher, you wanted to act out your favorite matches, favorite moments. And so to see someone actually go the next step and not only train in wrestling, which is what Shotty did, but then how hard would it be to put together a promotion? Kind of an enthralling thing. It's actually quite impressive to see someone actually go the extra mile and do that. So when that you get started, though, wrestling is notorious for a variety of different reasons. Not only because it's quite hard business to break into, but it's also actually quite expensive to run, to moderate, and of course to just keep everything ticking over. So the fact that they've been going for nearly 2 years at this point is damn impressive. So it's one of those situations where I'm like, you know what? I got to give them their flowers a little bit and actually take a look at some of the things they've done. So what I thought, considering that yesterday was their pay-per-view, It's Dark and Hell is Hot, as you may have, again, Shotty being a rap inspired individual, and people who have followed DMX will no doubt see the connotation there. There's no spoilers about that pay-per-view for two chief reasons. Number one, I don't know what happened. I haven't seen the pay-per-view. Sorry, I had work today. But secondly, I think it would be inappropriate, considering that you should really go and support them. If you're interested at all in supporting local businesses, British startups, or just if you're a battle rap fan and you're looking to support a venture that might invariably help benefit battle rap one day, then you should go and get the pay-per-view, or at least go and subscribe to the Patreon and support them. And also, I'd probably be a really rubbish person in displaying, because I haven't been keeping up to date with the storylines and such. What I have done, though, is done some research on the company from a layman's perspective, so that if you've never heard of SovPro, I can give you some very preliminary stuff. And I got ahead and reviewed a few things. And I thought it'd be fun to kind of go through some of this stuff because, number one, don't really have anything else to talk about. But secondly, it gives me something to talk about, which is lovely. So it's one of those situations where you go, okay, cool. I can indulge in my passion a little bit here. So let's have a look. So SovPro was officially launched on YouTube on the 3rd of January 2022, albeit it was only incorporated on the 7th of April 2022, and celebrated its first pay-per-view anniversary, according to this, in October of 2023 with their pay-per-view second reign, which followed first reign. So the other thing to note about this is that they've actually gained some pretty good prominence and traction recently in terms of being covered in various places, such as Cultaholic, What Culture, The Mirror, The Sun, TalkSport, mainly due to their affiliation with the characterization and a debut of Les Battersby from Coronation Street, which, hey, say what you like, man, the fact that you're getting mentioned on TalkSport and you're being pushed in newspapers and indeed some of the more prominent wrestling websites is a low-key genius decision, considering also the social and communal relevance of Les Battersby as being a member of Coronation Street, you know, a historically northern staple of soap diets. I never watched Coronation Street. I was an EastEnders boy. London boy in it. So, you know, I wasn't a big Coronation Street fan, but I do recognize the face. So it's one of those situations you go, okay, that's interesting. What I've done as well is I've gone through the promotion as well. I've also compared and contrasted a couple of their matches. So there's one of their more prominently featured matches is the Crown Cup in 2022. Another one is their 6 women's scramble match in 2023. And then I've also got a one-off match from a gentleman by the name of Ian Skinner versus Smashing Mike. So, you know, there's something there, I'm sure. But one of the things that you'll notice about, because again, it's, as far as production and promotions go, right, one of the things that you'll notice about indie feds is that they start with the best of intentions. And what I mean by that is that you can tell there's a bunch of passion, you can tell there's a lot of dedication, you can tell there's a lot of fun being tried to be made into the product. But one of the things that you notice straight away is that what gets lost in the translation is the presentation to the audience. How do I put this? Even if you look at something like ECW from back in the day, one of the things you notice is that they paid no attention to production whatsoever. None. Zip. Nada. And their focus on from their perspective is, why bother trying to compete? Now, a lot of indie feds follow this, but the other problem is that they don't have the talent that ECW did, so that when the matches get in the ring, the matches captivated in ECW because they were tremendously violent and ultra risky, and they had a fair amount of risque content, whereas independent wrestling, especially British independent wrestling, tends not to have those things, so it can fall a little bit flat. Where SovPro really comes into its own is its presentation, is in its use of its arenas and its props and its production. Because one of the things that I've noticed from 2022 to 2023 is, even though 2022 is perfectly serviceable, I actually quite like the ring layout, and I like the stage, and the Titantron is awesome. Every single wrestler gets treated like a star as they're coming into the ring and they're leaving. One of the things that you know immediately, though, is some of the production aspects need a little work. So there's some quite choppy changing backwards and forwards. I think I've referenced it in one of the matches. In fact, it was in the six women scramble. They a couple of times ruin spots because they cut away to someone entering the ring, which misses a pinfall, which means that a champion-elect doesn't get kind of the shine that one would get from a pinfall attempt. And occasionally a finisher. Same with that. So these are high spots that an audience are looking for in order to get like that Jones aspect of being able to go, whoa, big moment, great, fantastic. So it's one of those situations where I can appreciate that that's hard. Because again, startup, new, fresh, you've got people running the company that have never run a wrestling federation, albeit have had some affiliation with wrestling before. Cut to 2023, that is not nearly as prevalent. It's actually quite impressive how they've changed, because they don't have weekly television to hone this. They don't even have monthly pay-per-views to hone this. This is stuff that they've had to drastically improve. Not only that, but between arenas as well. This isn't something where they've got a home base where they can set up and kind of... I'll share something with you, okay? Because I don't want the live stream to be completely wrestling related. I can relate it to my experience. Even setting up this fucking live stream, right? I faffed around for 20 minutes, half an hour, trying to make sure everything was fine, everything was tested, everything fires. everything's actually working so that when I hit the live button, you're actually going to see me and you can actually hear me. You can comment and chat so I can actually see you. Now, that's one camera, one microphone, one internet connection, 2 screens, a keyboard, a soundboard, and the internet over there. That's it. Now imagine trying to run that. Not only from the perspective of multiple cameras, multiple photographers, multiple ring officials, multiple performers, multiple matches over the course of a card that goes over the space of 2, 3, sometimes 3.5 hours. That's a lot to learn without reps. So one of the things that really impresses me about SovPro is the fact that they've managed to grow and improve significantly without reps. They've kind of just taken it and run with it. And that's just, for me at least, that's super impressive. I know it probably doesn't mean much to the average person, but from a production standpoint, I'm really impressed by that. So it gives me faith that the more that they continue, the more that they'll grow, which also then speaks into their booking, specifically who they booked on their cards as far as who they put in prominent positions. Now, of course, there are names in here that you may not know of if you're not into gaming, if you're not into wrestling, or if you're not aware of the more niche internet personalities that subscribe within British independent wrestling or British wrestling. One of them is Simon Miller, who, if you're a wrestling fan, is impossible not to have heard of because he's just the biggest, scariest looking dude who's also the nicest dude like ever. Like his entire gimmick is that he's actually kind of a goofball, and he's like, "Why? Here's why." Like he's a goof, but he will break you in half. He reminds me, I tell you what, if you've never heard of Simon Miller before, take a moment to Google him, and then if you don't have time to look at a video of him, just imagine Henry Cavill if he was into wrestling. Like, instead of if he wasn't into Warhammer or gaming, he'd be into wrestling. Like, it's crazy to think that when I first started watching Simon Miller, he was training to become a professional wrestler at Al Snow's Academy of all places, and he was only sort of just learning. In fact, I think he'd had an injury. He took a bad bump and he'd hurt his shoulder or his arm or something, so he had to take an extensive period of time away from being able to learn to wrestle. Not skip his YouTube channel though, where his catchphrase is hitting his head like this. So for a couple of months, the poor bastard was made to go out and go, "Why? Here's why." God bless him. He took it like a champ though. But he's a great choice, not only because he's an aspiring wrestler who's got tons of potential, no bumps on his card, so he's fresh and athletic, but he's got a real understanding of wrestling culture, not only within wrestling matches and also now having had training, but because he's come up in the IWC, internet wrestling community for people who aren't marks like me, he understands what it's like to deal with a... And I will say this about wrestling fans because wrestling fans have this in common with Arsenal fans. Incredibly fickle and difficult to please, and also sometimes leaning towards the little bit of entitled side. So considering he already had a grasp of that, booking him in prominent positions, given the fact that he's a reasonable physical talent, like I've seen some of his matches now, and he carries himself pretty well. He's very sweaty. He's very, very sweaty. He's not oil, he's sweaty. So maybe there's some cardio issues there. I don't know. He doesn't work, Simon Miller, as a hoss, for instance. He works... Oh, God. How would I typify him? His working style is... God. I want to say like a Ciampa almost, but not quite as... Because he's a face. So he's more like a... very technical and very efficient, but not spectacular for the sake of being spectacular. There are other personalities that fill that void, but the point I'm making with this long ramble about Simon Miller, because I never get a chance to talk about Simon Miller anymore, because this is long gone from the days I used to watch What Culture, is he's a great choice for SovPro, not only because he's presumably a local talent, but also because he's for a startup that's looking to make waves on the internet first and then break into live and then presumably get picked up somewhere at some stage down the line. He's the kind of person that can really help you work with that in terms of spreading awareness via social media, working properly, and all the rest of that sort of stuff. But then you've got someone like Commander Sterling, who covers gaming as typically as their bread and butter, but then also has a preposterously large star quality when it comes to wrestling, and is a controversial figure as well, which is brilliant for wrestling as well, because heel and face dynamics, people. You want to be booed, you want to be cheered, you want to elicit some reaction. And to have that in your back pocket is an incredibly, again, astute piece of business. But then when you compare and contrast that to the Crown Cup 2022, which is where Miller was booked, so was Commander Sterling. You also had a gentleman by the name of Big Guns Joe, who is diminutive yet energetic. I still don't know how to pronounce this. I don't know if it's an I or an L at the beginning of this name. It's either Lestin Reese or Iestin Reese, who quote-unquote is the alpha male, who brings like a more of a Hoss appearance, like big, almost Walter-esque. He's not Gunther, he's Walter. Walter-esque in terms of not slow, but fast-ish, can move when he needs to, doesn't move unless he has to. I really like his presentation too. Just getting to the point though, sorry. And then you've also got Kid Bandit and, again, this guy called Ian Skinner, whoever he is. Those guys mesh for a oh, and sorry, I'm missing one. HT Drake. Sorry, my apologies. They made for a really interesting match. I watched this today, as a matter of fact. So 4 competitors start for the ability to be able to win the Crown Cup, which was the inaugural championship or award that was given in SovPro. 4 start, and then another competitor enters every 90 seconds after that, and the winner is the man who is the last to be eliminated. So every elimination and submission is... every pinfall and submission is an elimination down to the last 2, and then whoever wins out of those 2 wins the cup. And I've given a play-by-play of this match here, and this is what I'm saying, like, one of the things that you've noticed from this match, for instance, when you compare and contrast to, say, a single match in 2023 or the 6-woman scramble, is that in this match, for instance, there's a couple of times where the entrances almost get in the way of the match a little bit. It takes... They've tried to build off of the energy of a rumble. You can tell that much, where, people will sort of... they'll come in and they'll make a big stir, or they'll have their moment per se. And I will say that they did a really good job of each entrant felt like they had their moment, with the exception of maybe Smashing Mike. Smashing Mike didn't get too much in this one, but that works into the heel dynamic later. But the point is that you can tell that SovPro are doing their best to present these guys as stars. They're really doing a good job of trying to portray them, their motives, their story, and give you the... Why should I care? And you have to understand, when I was watching and reviewing this stuff, I got to be honest again, I've got no investment in any of this stuff. I'm looking for reasons to care. And SovPro, what they've done quite well with some of this stuff is that they've given you enough to think about without overwhelming you. I find with WWE sometimes that their stuff is so convoluted that it requires its own reading to make sense of it. If you were to, for instance, explain to someone how the fuck The Rock is back, he challenged Roman, but now Roman's not going to fight The Rock is going to fight no one, and Cody's going to fight Roman, even though he was already entitled to fight Roman because he won the Royal Rumble match. But then Seth wanted Cody to fight Seth, and now, but Seth wants to be Cody's shit. It's ridiculously complicated when you consider wrestling ultimately is supposed to be shoot to a certain degree, in so much as I want to be the best. I want to be the champion. Who is the champion? I want to fight the champion. With SovPro, some of these matches, even though it might seem reductive, when they come at it through this perspective, in this match, for instance, the Crown Cup, they all want to win the cup. It's that simple. There's no, this guy wants to screw this guy, and therefore this guy wants to do this, and this is... No. There's a few competitors starting, more competitors enter, which, again, the flow of the match can be worked upon, which they clearly have. But then it's who wins. I want to win the cup. I want to win the shiny cup. The shiny cup means more money. Money means a better life. It's effectively the Kevin Owens style of booking, which I've always appreciated, because Kevin Owens, as much as people might not harp on about him anymore because he's not featured as prominently as he once was, my God, what an effective wrestler in terms of just getting the job done and entertaining people, having great matches, and not featuring in storylines that involve necrophilia or... cucking someone or any other heinous bollocks that WWE like dreaming up. But anyways, back to the match. So again, I won't give you the play-by-play. You can watch it. That's the beautiful thing about SovPro. A lot of their stuff and a lot of their good stuff is actually on YouTube, free to watch. Although again, reminder that there's a Patreon there for a reason. So do go subscribe and go support them. But one of the things that you've seen from this match is that, with the exception of some of the moments being not spoiled or just not showcased in the way that I think they should be, one of the things that you notice about that is that there's a tremendous amount of action in this match, and indeed a few of their matches, where it's like, okay, fair enough. Sorry, just weird little message. Anyways, one of the things that you'll see is that they've crammed the matches to the brim with so much action that it's very difficult for you to not be entertained, because there's something over here, something over there. The other pace matches as well are really, really good. I think that whoever's booking SovPro has a mind on the fact that they don't want to overexpose their talent to a certain degree, but they also want to showcase their talent in the right way. A good example in this match, for instance, is this schmuck, this pitiful fool by the name of Ian Skinner, who I've seen referenced a few different places, but in this match, for instance, they've showcased him in a very interesting way. He comes out and he immediately joins commentary, and that's interesting because it works in the start of the match, because it also then tells a good story in terms of the fact that he's fresh. He's not engaging with the rest of the guys in the most overt way, which means that he's playing the game as best he can. He's also brings a fresh vibe, because one of the other things that I've noticed, and this is, I know, by the way, this is going to sound real rich coming from my punk ass. The commentary. Let me bring up the names. So we've got DJ King, who's your play-by-play commentator, and Tom McManus, who's your color guy. Now, I want to stress that this is no longer the case. Having seen some of the more recent stuff, I don't know if this criticism necessarily follows anymore. But at first, these two were too similar. They were far. It was like listening to the Bananas and Pajamas, I imagine, in that you can't distinguish the voices, you can't distinguish the cadence. They both, broadly speaking, sound almost exactly the same in most circumstances. It's just one is covering play-by-play, so calling the hits, calling the moves, whereas another one is just kind of throwing the occasional reference in. There it is. So one of the competitors in this Crown Cup match was Kid Bandit, who was giving off anime vibes before I realised that they were dressed as, oh shit, I've forgotten the name, but the main character from My Hero Academia. And the commentary, I'm presuming it's Tom McManus, makes a Plus Ultra reference, which, I mean, okay, but then also later on there's a reference to Roman Reigns not being able to sleep at night because of a thing, and it's I don't know don't know about that. That's not good. I feel like wrestling is odd, because wrestling is it's why you would never see Batman referenced in a Marvel movie, not overtly anyway. In wrestling, there's a reason why WWE and AEW spitting barbs at each other is just kind of weird from time to time, because they're supposed to exist in their own self-contained universes, because the alternative is that we have to believe that there really was a spooky clown demon living in WWE, going town to town, performing, doing spooky clown magic for real, and then just one day he stopped. And there was also an undead Undertaker guy and his brother who was burnt sort of all over, but then wasn't, and then it turned out it was only psychological, because the kayfabe of it has to be maintained. So it's one of those situations where I understand, I really do, but when you hear that sort of reference, and I get that WWE is widely known, so there's the temptation to kind of say, why not? I really feel like indie feds or smaller feds should stick to their own references. They should work to contain their own universes, because it makes it not only easier for people to follow who have no idea what wrestling is, and maybe you've just gone to one of these shows. Because if you don't know what wrestling is, you won't know who Roman Reigns is. As popular as he is, I promise you just won't. But also, it takes some of the shine off these. I mean, there's plenty of star power in these matches. When you see the introductions of each of these guys, there's plenty of star power here. Spend more time showcasing them. Showcase someone else who isn't in the match. And I'm harping on because you can tell at this phase that the commentary team was probably still finding its feet in terms of its dynamic. Now, that takes time. I want to defend them by saying that. I once did commentary of a Common Room wrestling match. The footage still exists on YouTube. Search for Common Room Wrestling, and you'll find me in the back with my buddy Brenny commenting on what can only be described as a fucking atrocity of a wrestling match. But me and Brenny, all I did was take what he said and yell it. So I was a shit commentator. All I did was he yelled "Steel doormat," and I yelled it louder, and I got the laugh. So trust me when I get it. Commentary is not. It's not an easy dynamic. But when in 2023, for instance, it was clear that Tom McManus was starting to adopt not necessarily a heel persona, but more of a indifferent persona, or more ignominious and in sort of come on, he's a nice guy, really, and sort of being kind of belligerent towards it, whereas DJ is much more the pragmatist, the JR type, who's just calling it how he sees it, calling BS when he sees it. It adds so much more to the entertainment value now that you've got that dynamic in your ears as well as what you're seeing in the ring. Because the other thing that you notice about this Crown Cup match is that the heel-face dynamics are great. They really work really, really well. They cut off moments where they wanted to see Bandit and Miller work together or battle each other. They cut them off so the fans can't see it. There's moments where the heel dynamic works. Skinner is a ruthless little bastard in this match. Stealing pinfalls wherever he can, cheap shots wherever he can, running away when he gets the opportunity. Faces never quite getting their hands on him until right at the very end. The Crown Cup match is one that I would highly recommend you go and check out as a sort of a sousson into SovPro. It really is as close to a well-booked match as I think that they were capable of doing at the time. And I say that as a compliment because now, when you see something like, for instance, there's another match that I mentioned, this guy Ian Skinner again, versus Smashing Mike. Now, this is an interesting match because there's almost a... oh, God, I feel like there's a modern-day contemporary version. But effectively, Ian Skinner and Smashing Mike, the two competitors here, were competing for the title of Smashing Mike Dad's son. So Smashing Mike Sr., who is just a wrestler's dad, was having conversations with Ian Skinner off the air or behind the scenes about Ian wanting to usurp Smashing Mike's title of his son, which was funny because it's like, okay, they just keep the kayfabe of that name up. He's not given a name. He's Mike's dad. So yeah, it just kind of works. But the point I'm making, sorry, I'm going off on a million different tangents. I apologize. Thank you for tuning in and sticking with me, by the way. This is only my 10th cup of coffee today. Is that the match itself is booked pretty well as far as a heel-face dynamic. But unlike WWE, they book their face remarkably strong, and it still works because the heel doesn't get squashed and doesn't ultimately lose all of their face in the situation. So you can appreciate the fact that SovPro really worked hard in the intervening period to try and make the presentation as good as the booking, because you can tell that they've got some ideas about booking that deviate from typical WWE standards, let's say, where it has to be I'm just trying to think now of it has to be some delusional idea that completely disregards what the fans and what a typical person, a reasonable person who isn't a 75-year-old mental case, thinks is entertainment. And I really appreciate that. And that sounds like a bad home compliment. Honestly, there's not been a match so far where I haven't been entertained. Something as simple as, let me go back to... This is the problem with me making my research notes incredibly tiny. Where the blood... There it is. The Dreamhouse Deathmatch. You look at someone like Harley Hudson, who I understand, by the way, said her goodbye, apparently. Yes, it was scheduled in a segment. So I imagine she's not wrestling for the promotion anymore, or for now. But either way, talk about someone that has star quality potential. Like, in terms of a look, just Google Harley Hudson. Pink from the top down, hair down to the boots. Just pure pink, okay? So you think, cutesy wootsy Barbie. No, actually, her look is actually, it's remarkably fresh in terms of it's eye popping without being overt. It doesn't completely lose its luster. In terms of her demeanor, she's got star quality as well. The way she carries herself, the way she attends to the opponents, the hard-hitting maneuvers that she hits, the way she cuts promos. And she's incredibly young as well. That's the other thing. So that she's like an MJF in terms of, there you go. So number one, hot take Hylas. Thank you for joining me, my friend. And she's going to, so I saw the TNA reference, but I saw that back in October of last year. So I thought she'd either been and gone since. So that's on me. In which case, yeah. Huge potential. And look, that's the crazy thing is like, I get that there's the temptation to look at a person like that and think, right, polished or finished. The thing that you've seen with someone like MJF, for instance, who it still staggers me to think is only 26, 27, that really depresses me. But the fact is that there's so much you can do with someone like that. They've not fully evolved their moveset. They've not fully realized their gimmick. They've not fully realized the nature of their character. Like, what stories do they want to tell? Because that's the other thing about wrestling that people don't really get is, and it's the fake aspect that I hate when it's leveled at wrestling, is this idea that it's quite fake. And I'm like, well, listen, wrestling is storytelling from a physical perspective. The matches are there to bullet point aspects of the story, chapters in it, if you will. And one of the things that you learnt from MJF in his AEW run against someone like CM Punk, let's say, is that they took a photograph from when he was a kid, a photograph when he was like 10 years old, saved it for 16 years in effect, and managed to use it as the catalyst for an entire wrestling program that lasted months. And not only that, was bloody entertaining, had all those moments where you thought maybe it was going to be cliched, maybe it was going to tip over the edge and become mentor-mentee, or, you created me, father, you know, all of this sort of rudimental, very base stuff. And they subverted the expectation time after time and managed to pay it off in a really good way. Now, of course, that hasn't translated into star quality for someone like, Wardlow, because of circumstances after that. But the fact is that MJF grew immensely during that feud and he lost. So the fact that Harley Hudson now has the opportunity, having made a really strong name for herself in the British wrestling scene, into something like TNA, which, by the way, is that what we're calling it now? Are we calling it TNA again? I thought it was still Impact. I thought we'd all agreed that TNA was a terrible name because of what TNA stands for when it's not wrestling. No? Are we still calling it TNA? Okay, cool. Glad we're bringing everything back from the early 2000s. I can't wait to hear Limp Bizkit en route again and wear my flaring trousers. I was toying with whether or not wearing my Linkin Park hoodie for this one because it's a wrestling show, I guess. And well, I was well into my emo phase when I was watching professional wrestling as a kid. So, but then again, if I covered it up, I'd be denying you tickets to the gun show. Oh, my back. Anyway, back to SovPro. But my point there is that there's a lot of really good points here that I want to bring up because I think they're very subtle things, but they're very good things in terms of building a roster and a presentation going forward. Something as simple as, and I mentioned this on Twitter yesterday because there were three things that it was. I know I said two, but it was really three. Number one, I really love the presentation, the Titantron, the music, the lights, the way that they've set up the ring and the crowd to make the most of the space. Because that's the other thing. When you're wrestling in the British independent wrestling scene, it's very easy for it to look Bush League and low budget. SovPro have done a really good job in terms of being cute with the space and making sure that every aspect of it is utilized to make it look as professional and as much of a show as possible. The belts, I really like the belts. They're not overly complicated. Yeah, well, TNA, short-term booking and constantly on the state of collapse? No, don't be silly. Hylas, be silly, man. It's TNA we're talking about. They're going to live until the heat death of the fucking universe, and it won't be their fault. But anyways, the belts. I really like the belts. The belts have got a really slick design, but they've got just enough detail. They're just big enough to look big without actually making them look like kids playing with their dad's wrestling toys, because that's the balance you've got to find with the belt. Is it can't be too big, it can't be too small, can't be too ornate, can't be too basic. Black and gold really works well with belts with a splash of blue, and they've nailed that with the belts. I really, really appreciate that. But then you go into the staffing decisions, and this was the third thing that I really wanted to highlight. So Lincoln Jack, their announcer. I love this man. I love this man. I love his little bow tie and his tuxedo blue jacket. And I love his smooth yet energetic voice. And I love how unashamedly face he is when he's talking to the crowd, especially on the anniversary edition. I believe it was when they covered... Where is it? Oh, God. Sorry. Celebrated first anniversary on October 2023 in Second Reign. So he begins the show. Yeah. Cockroaches wish they had the ability to be able to live as long as fucking TNA, dude. Cockroaches can live without a head. TNA can live without basically anything barring a leg shifting itself across the floor, somehow regenerating along the way. I mean, God bless Matt Hardy for saving the company, but we have to ask ourselves, was it really worth it sometimes? Anyways, I say that in jest. The more companies that there are to work for wrestlers is always a better thing, even if they're not run very, very well. So I take that back. But yeah, so their pay-per-view Second Reign, Lincoln Jack begins like with... No, when we started a year ago, I had no idea I'd even be here after a job, and then suddenly he's cut off by the Conservatives. And then to have two guys whose entire heel gimmick is predicated on the fact that they're Tories. Yeah, it got me. Oh, it got me. It made me laugh because Lincoln Jack is, he's nice. He's a nice boy, and those conservative Tory motherfuckers, they're not. They're not nice boys at all. We don't like them because they are conservatives. Boo! Boo, I say. But even having someone front and center like the Fink was back in the day, just someone who's kind of unilaterally beloved, is always a good idea. And then you move on to the champion. So, Joseph Connors. For those of you who don't know, Joseph Connors has actually had a pretty storied career in not only British wrestling, but also in WWE. So this is a guy that's not only had his moments in WWE, as part of NXT UK, I believe, and then he's also had some stints there and back. He was actually part of WCPW back in the day. Now, for those of you who don't know, WCPW was What Culture's attempt to start up a wrestling fed way back in the day before they became... Ooh, I forget what they were called. I think it was like Defy or something like that. Or Defiant. There it is, Defiant Pro Wrestling. And WCPW for a period was a lot of fun. Like, they were running shows and they were getting good reviews. And I mean, fuck, they culminated with they had Angle versus Cody when Cody was on the independent circuit working everywhere that wasn't WWE. They booked Kurt Angle versus Cody Rhodes and Alberto Del Patron, but we all make mistakes. That's fine. Notable prick, Alberto Del Rio. But yeah, he's got experience in that federation. So when you take someone who has got that experience, coupled with the production value and the schedule of a WWE schedule, and you make him the champion, especially as a heel, I gotta give him credit. That's an astute piece of booking, because not only does he have a heelish look, he looks menacing, he looks genuinely disconcerting, despite not looking physically imposing, especially when compared to someone like Simon Miller. It's that like sort of venomous. He's got something almost, Orton-esque about him in terms of that sort of lowbrow stare, and that makes for a good champion because he makes him disconcerting to the average audience member, but beatable. Like, it's always the thing of, we just need the right person to beat him. That's great. That always makes it better for a heel champion to have a babyface that can be... There's nothing worse, especially in this day and age, because Roman Reigns at this point is a good example of a heel champion that's been booked, in my eyes, I'm going to say this now, poorly, recently, because everyone knows he's going to win every fucking match, every fucking pay-per-view. What's the point in having a heel who you never think is going to lose until... And look, let's all be honest with ourselves now. I'm going to say this. Oh, of course, Rey Mysterio was also on that show. You're quite right. So, Hylas right here, bit of a wrestling aficionado by the looks of things, and kind of my co-host for this episode. Thank you very much for tagging every now and then. Where was I? Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes. We're not all sure he's going to finish his story. Be honest now. It makes all the sense in the world for Cody Rhodes to finish his story. But is he? I don't know if he is. Because It's always about the fact that WWE will carry on the following day on Raw means they got to have something for you to fucking watch on Raw. So it's got to be so what happens next moment? Is Rock going to turn? Is Roman going to turn on The Rock? Is Seth going to turn on Cody? Is any number of different things that WWE will then turn around. Because this happened last year, by the way. I remember this. So many people were coming up to me after the Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns match and saying, oh, you didn't think Cody was actually going to win, did you? And it's that thing of, for fuck's sake, guys, that's the story WWE implicitly told everyone going in, and McMahon took control of that fucking show the day before, and are you surprised it got rebooked? That was always going to be the plan, and they've since revised that history to make it seem like anyone that thought Cody Rhodes was going to win at Mania last year is a imbecile, and I hate that. I hate that about WWE, and that will persist long after now that McMahon's gone, by the way. So, story for another day. But my point to all of this is that booking a heel is a delicate balance because you can't have him impervious, but you can't. No one likes a chicken shit heel that you know could just be beaten every 10 minutes, because that then generates the go away heat that we all dread. Seth had that a little bit because he had J&J Security and Kane while he was having that heel run where he was double champ for a period of time. Brock Lesnar, he didn't need an entourage, and you always assumed, it's going to take something. But the thing with Brock is that he did put people over, so you can't level that against Brock. But with Roman, be honest with yourselves. In the last 7 or 8 months since Mania last year, when's the last Roman match you watched because you were genuinely curious about who was going to win? You knew Roman wasn't losing, especially when it got to the point where it was being booked as 1,000 days. Whereas Joseph Connors, I genuinely get this impression that, like I said, there's a slight beatable nature. When you watch his match, for instance, against Simon Miller for the title, it was a good back and forth. Miller was selling very, very well, and there was a demeanor of Miller doing his best. Connors wasn't absolutely murdering him, but was doing a lot to incite the crowd and was doing a lot to work him over and things of that nature. And has also been booked not to be in one-on-one matches. But he's been in several multi-man matches, so it's a thing of not overexposing him as champion and also not overexposing him as a performer. I really appreciate that because, again, it means that he can give the rub to other people. There's more people to showcase. That's all good things. I've just realised I've got my soundboard caught up between my legs, you randy little devil. Anywho, but then you move on to the other champion. So you got LA Taylor as women's champion. And in that 6-woman scramble that I noticed, one of the interesting things that I saw as far as their booking is that so one of the rules of the match is that it's I forget, there was a match on WWE probably a decade ago now where it was whoever got the last pin is technically world champion. And there was a period of time where Jeff Hardy was a champion in that match. I think John Morrison was a champion in that match. There was another person who was a champion in that match, I forget. And then Triple H pins Jeff Hardy at the end and then wins. But it was always one person after another person after another. An interesting piece of booking in this match, LA Taylor actually gets 2 consecutive pinfalls. But there's no benefit to it for her. She doesn't now secure her position as champion-elect. But it was to make a statement. It was a domineering performance. Like, I'm not only going to get this pinfall, I'm going to compete for the next one. And then, in fact, breaks up the pin at the end of the match to try and secure a third. Like, I like that booking. I like the idea that there's someone who's hungry for wins, not on a heel basis, but just vicious and dominant and overly physical, needlessly physical. There's something heelish about someone that really enjoys doling out pain to people. It was a famous anecdote, as a matter of fact, by the original Doink, who told Mick Foley once, the secret to tailoring your offense when you're a heel versus you're a babyface. One of the things he told Mick Foley was, raking the eyes. That's an inherently heelish thing to do, but it's not just raking. It's when you do it. You don't rake the eyes because you need to. You rake the eyes because you want to. You want to inflict. You like inflicting pain on people. Now, granted, we live in a weird time where heel and face dynamics are a bit skewed. We all wanted Sami Zayn to bash the shit out of... sorry, just some random text message again. But yeah, this idea that we don't want to see our faces bash the shit out of people. Yeah, everyone's cheering Sami to nail Roman in the back of her head with a chair, which if you think about it for 2 seconds in real life, doesn't make sense. Like, you never root for someone to smash someone in the back of a head with a steel chair, because it's an inherently very violent thing to do. But nevertheless, in this match, like the fact that LA Taylor, to secure her position as women's champion, not only gets the pinfall and then doesn't work sort of as a maniacal heel to kind of break up pinfalls here and there, try to moderate the match, and then trips up as a result. No, I'm going to get the next pin and the next pin after that, and I'm going to brutalize people doing it. I thought that was a magnificent piece of booking, as far as, especially on a women's side of things, where, you know, women's wrestling is still finding its feet in terms of its legitimacy. Like that or loathe it, I fucking hate it. I love the fact that women's wrestling is starting to get its kudos in America and over here too, where the women's roster, actually on SovPro in particular, is booked very, very well. I can't level... They're showcase front and center. Like I say, you've got stars like LA Taylor, Lucy Lee, and Harley Hudson, where it's like, okay, cool, they're putting the proper emphasis, and that's good. There's always the temptation, though, to be screwy with the booking, and I like the idea of them still being very clear and concise with the booking of their champions. Both of them look like they've got very clear remits. LA Taylor is a domineering physical presence, and Joseph Connors is that cerebral kind of champion. It's going to take a real... not only a strong baby face, not only a go team baby face, but a cunning baby. It's going to take someone really clever to wile him out of the title. It's going to be taking someone to almost beat him at his own game. And I appreciate that booking as well. So the fact is that they're going to go into their next pay-per-view, or at least their next showcase, is False Idols. Now, I've got it written down wrong here. I'm assuming I've written a 2 instead of a 5, because I believe it's the 6th of May. 2024, False Idols is their next pay-per-view, and Joseph Connors has featured prominently, again, hosting that championship on his shoulder, just again, cradling it like it's not going to go anywhere. You know, you gotta love that. You really do. And yeah, so it's just one of those things where, and I've rambled for basically 45 minutes on SovPro, but the reason I wanted to ramble is because the things that jump out at me, even after doing a very tertiary amount of research, I've not done a ton, right? There's tons of content on their channel. Gasbuff, a guest of mine recently, has worked tirelessly along with the other SovPro staff to kind of really give everybody who isn't aware of SovPro the opportunity to jump in at any point and fully immerse themselves and it not be all that disorienting. Again, that's the other thing I appreciate about wrestling, is that it's the same with boxing and sometimes football to a degree. The history and the weight of everything that's happened in the industry is sometimes incredibly hard, because then you've got to fucking follow the law. It's the same with things like, fiction and fantasy and things like that. Oh, yeah, goddamn right. Yeah, goddamn right. Again, it's going to be one of those things where LA Taylor is going to take some beating and Joseph Connors is going to take some beating. But yeah, anyways, back to the... Sorry, I'm not great at this live streaming thing. I'm told that it's not a good idea to respond to every live chat message. I don't think I'm going to listen to that. I think I like responding to live chat messages. It's nice. It's interesting. And if you take the time to leave a message, I'll take the time to reply. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I'm excited to see where they go from here. I'm also excited to dive into it, because again, there's a bunch of stuff, bunch of content on their channel. There's going to be tons of stuff on their Patreon. There's a bunch of people covering it. I also love the BTS stuff that they're doing. There's a lot of promo material that they're doing at the moment, as well as the guys behind the scenes doing a lot of promo stuff. They've done interviews with, I know they've done an interview with Kid Bandit. They've also done an interview with, I keep forgetting his name. What's his name? Ian Skinner. There it is. That Ian Skinner fella. They did a 25-minute interview with that guy. I mean, I do interviews for a living, as you know. Yeah, there's just something about that guy I don't like. Yeah. I mean, and they didn't have to work all that hard to get it out. Like, he's something. He's something. Yeah. I mean, I made notes on him as well, just because I was just sort of captive. There was something kind of captive. Listen, I'll level with you now, okay? So Ian Skinner's one that kept on coming up in my research as well. There's something to the guy. I mean, hang on, sorry, sorry guys, my feed's being weird. Sorry, I'm just getting some weird wait, what's going on here? Hang on.
Is it Joe Hendry? Oh no, say his name and he appears. It's Ian Skinner. Hello.
hang on, wait, sorry, you guys can't hear this shit. Let me just do wait.
Check.
Ian Skinner?
Check, yes. What's all this about?
Right, sorry, guys. I'm pretty sure, and forgive me if I'm wrong, this was 2 minutes ago. I told no one to give Ian Skinner the link. Not only the link, but he's in my Zoom call. How did you get this link?
Listen, I know people, and I'm aware that there are people out there who will provide me information. I'm a master of manipulation and master of misdirection.
But you've got your Titantron running on my
show
show as well. How have you... No, this is my show. How have you got your Titantron running on my show?
Listen, chat GPT is crazy, okay? That's the best way to put it.
Put my cough... Right, this is... I'm
sorry,
folks.
continue. Sorry.
I don't seem to have control over this anymore. What's going on?
I may have missed part of the conversation. Do continue.
I mean, look, you're catching me a little bit off guard here, okay? I mean, listen, let me just get into frame because I want to address you directly, okay? I was doing a lot of research, okay? And you were popping up, okay? You seem like you've been referenced quite a lot. You've been showcased quite a lot.
I'm sorry, popping up? Yeah, popping up in every SovPro show. Who else has done that?
Not any that I can see.
Lucy and Lee. I mean, yes. However, I think Lucy and Lee. I'm sure she's popped up at every SovPro show. However, consistency. There's very few people with the consistency of Ian Skinner at SovPro. So me popping up, I think that's a bit of a reductive statement. But continue with all your wisdom and research. I'm listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would appear that Ian Skinner has joined us. Ian Skinner, of course, 69 kilograms of pure energy, the Chael Sonnen of British wrestling. Shotty suck up. Don't know why that's there, but that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's. Let me just because apparently since you're in my feed now, let's just make sure that people can see just us. There we are. So. I mean, I'm assuming you've got something to say. You've hijacked my show for no... I usually invite people onto my show, right?
Listen,
they're kind enough to accept. You've just helped yourself to my channel for some reason, so go ahead.
Listen, I'm often someone with something to say. However, you have come into this conversation, this back and forth, this dialogue, with a bit of vile venom and vinegar. So I'm happy to listen to you speak since you've been speaking about SovPro and the many features and factors of SovPro. Me being one of them. Do continue.
Do you know what? You're right. I was, but I was really. Again, this is the thing I've noticed about you, Ian. You have a way of just doing whatever you want. You turn up, do what you want, win a lot, and leave. And I just.
I'm sorry.
The people I would like to see are the people that deserve to win, that work hard and deserve to win. You, on the other hand,
excuse me. Sorry,
for granted.
So I take winning for granted. Look at my record in Sovereign Pro Wrestling. Winning is not on the cards. I have won one match, a tag team match. I have pinned Kid Bandit. I won the Crown Cup fair and square. A winning record. You've definitely not done your research, because if you've done your research, you'd probably go on about listen.
I've done my research.
If you want to give me time to speak, give me time to speak. I'm speaking right now. The man speaking, the person who has the information and has the analytics of SovPro, Mr. Day One SovPro, is speaking right now. First reign, Crown Cup, pinned by Kid Bandit. Second show, Heavy as the Head, pinned by Smashing Mike's after Smashing Mike's dad got involved. Then at Warpath, I was calling out the injustice that Simon Miller got a championship match. You were talking about Joseph Connors and Simon Miller's championship match. I pinned Simon Miller, my former tag team partner. I pinned Simon Miller at First Reign, and yet he got a championship match, and yet he decided to get involved. We've had a bit of a scuffle, a bit of a get-together. I think the less said about Simon Miller, the better right now. My feelings are a little bit hurt. And then we go on to Boiling Point, Simon Miller and Kid Bandit in a tag team match versus me and Justice for Skinner, Big P Justice. I then get the win. That is my first win in SovPro. I beat the Crown Cup champion. I took the Crown Cup home. And then I have to defend it at second reign. I did so out of the goodness of my heart because I needed to showcase the Crown Cup. Unlike some people who sat with it for 6 months doing nothing, absolutely nothing with it, I then got pinned in the Crown Cup by Simon Miller, which then led to our championship match this weekend against the 8-7. Bro, I could have been the greatest tag team. We could have been the greatest tag team champions, and yet we just were not cohesive. We didn't have synergy. We were getting there, but we just weren't there. That's the facts and figures about Ian Skinner's reign and match record in SovPro. But you're the expert. Please tell me more.
You want facts, people? Here's the facts. Of the 3 matches I reviewed today, Mr. Skinner was involved in 2 of them, and in both of them, he had victory in his grasp. He had the match won, and his arrogance and avarice cost him, ladies and gentlemen. Twice he took winning for granted. He had the win, but it wasn't good enough just to win. That's what is bugging me about him. He just doesn't understand the greatness within him.
About him. Listen, I'm here. This is a conversation. I'm here. Don't say him in the third person.
You'll forgive me.
I'm here. Don't disrespect me, okay? If you're trying to showcase SovPro, don't disrespect one of the most consistent players in SovPro, okay?
Can I speak on my own show now, or is this one of those situations where I'm going to have to find where I've been hacked and fire someone because I told everyone not to give him the link? Because I knew this would happen.
I'm just here to correct you. You're being outlandish right now. I'm just here to correct you.
I'm being outlandish. Listen. I have utmost respect for your abilities and talents, sir. I am becoming a fervent fan. If it weren't for the fact that every time I think about maybe he's not so bad, every time I'm then given evidence to the contrary, you ooze hatred in my veins. I don't know why I can't stand you, but I can't, and yet you're here, and and then we've got the comments here saying no one gets to speak when Ian's around. I know, right?
No, listen, Callie DeLorean, which I'm imagining, I'm not even looking at the comments, but I'm assuming it's Callie DeLorean, who just has a vehement hate boner for me. I can't tweet anything, even things not associated with SovPro. I can't tweet anything with him going, oh yeah, you know what'd be great right now? If I could take all the anger out in my life on this one person who's actually selling tickets, making money for the company. It's reductive behavior from him, and yet I'm just trying to power on through. Since day one, this guy's been nipping at my back, and I keep trying to prove him wrong. And that's the thing. I'm trying to prove everyone wrong.
How can you keep being but this is what I'm trying to say. You just decide on a whim, I'm gonna hijack commentary. I'm not gonna go for the Crown Cup straight away. No. I'm gonna take my time, and then you sneak.
Pause
the pin.
Quick one.
You defeat people.
Pause right there. Where did that strategy get me?
You were one of the final 2. I will grant you it was mildly successful.
And then the final 4 as well. Listen, if people don't see me as the biggest target in the match, they're not looking correctly. Master of misdirection and master of strategy. People come to wrestling to wrestle. I can wrestle. You've seen me. I can wrestle. But the strongest wrestler in the room knows he doesn't have to wrestle to be successful. But yes, that was first point. Second point, continue.
Well, my continue, because this is, ladies and gentlemen, I choose my guests very carefully. I don't like to be upstaged on my own show, and I have so many points here, and now all I can think about is the fact that Ian Skinner is currently staring me in the eye, slightly intimidating me, if I'm being brutally honest with you, okay? He's a handsome man, and I don't like to be upstaged on my own show, and all I've got here is I just don't understand, like, why do you continue to...
get flustered.
You have...
Everyone gets flustered. It's fine. It's perfectly normal.
But why not use your powers for good? I mean, you could win the endearance of the fans, of the promoter.
Sorry.
You could be over like Rover if you just...
Were you there last night?
I couldn't make it, unfortunately. I had a children's hospital to save.
Listen, I completely understand. However, you're making these claims without prior knowledge. You weren't there last night. You didn't feel the ovation. You didn't see the outcome of the match. You are making claims very much unaware. I'm here to make everything right, make everything correct, state the facts. I don't like to sugarcoat things. I very much speak from the truth from the heart. There's literally a 9-minute video of me speaking from the heart, talking about the upcoming tag team match at Boiling Point with Kid Bandit and Simon Miller. And if you can point out flaws in my game or flaws in my logic, I'm happy to open to that. But please stop making claims like I'm arrogant, that my strategy is not correct in regards to how I approach matches. How would you take on 8 people? How would you take on 10 people? With people like Commander Sterling and Yeston Reese in that ring, would you face them head on? Brilliant. How'd that serve other people in that match?
Okay, then let's give the opportunity for you to, because I'm a fair person. Let me give you the opportunity to dispel this arrogance that I'm assuaging to you. Say one nice thing about Sovereign Pro Wrestling as a promotion.
Sovereign Pro Wrestling saved me. Sovereign Pro Wrestling.
That's nice. That's
Sovereign
good.
Pro
That's
Wrestling.
Positive. That's good.
This isn't something unfounded, untrue. I love Sovereign Pro Wrestling. Sovereign Pro Wrestling saved my career. Sovereign Pro Wrestling unlocked the real Ian Skinner, the real thing, Ian Skinner. Sovereign Pro Wrestling has given me opportunities that in my career up to this point I hadn't had so many opportunities across a
wait. Sorry, I'm just trying to clarify. You're saying Sovereign Pro Wrestling is the reason you are the way you are? That it unlocked this in you?
Yes.
Sovereign Pro Wrestling is responsible for this? You can't be serious.
You treat this as if it's a bad thing. People were not interested, weren't even talking about Ian Skinner until SovPro came about, until the videos came about, until the real Ian Skinner came through these videos came about. No one really cared about Ian Skinner. As soon as I started working with Sovereign Pro Wrestling, you've got other companies reaching out to me. Debuts. All over the country. Tell me I'm wrong.
Maybe I've misjudged you. Maybe I've mischaracterized you. And look, I usually like a bit more prep to prepare for my game. Look, as you can see, I'm flustered, man. I was doing a live stream all by myself, you know, and you jump in here looking as handsome as you do, and I'm just... Can we start over? Can we bring this back in and kind of... Because I have questions. I can ask you questions. Can we start again?
Go ahead.
All right, good. And, you know... I'm sorry. Again, I want to...
Oh, it's also with questions. Please don't ask me. Oh, how'd you get into wrestling? Oh, like I'd rather record an entire podcast about Austin Powers Goldmember than speak about how I got into wrestling. What was my first thing? I've said it so many times on different podcasts and different live streams. I'm not interested in talking about that. I'm interested in talking about the current, the now, and highlighted experiences that I've had across my career. I just wanted that as a little asterisk, cliff notes right at the start, just to cut off anything of that nature.
So to know.
Also, don't ask me if I've ever wrestled Zack Sabre Jr.
Okay.
That's one thing that is.
Okay, that's that kind of takes a lot of my questions. Let me just see if I can find. You mentioned Simon Miller. Has your partnership with him, what has it taught you about friendship and the power of cooperation?
You can be as nice to someone as you want to be, but sometimes at the end of the day, they'll still turn their back on you. You can turn over a new leaf, but another leaf may turn over on you.
Do you really think you're the Chael Sonnen of British wrestling? Or is that maybe just a slight exaggeration on... I'm just saying that there might be... Chael Sonnen's kind of a 20-year veteran and a multiple-time... I'm not questioning your greatness. I'm just saying that there's a slight bit of ambiguity in the comparison between the...
explain the logic then, and then think of a comparable UFC fighter.
To yourself?
Mm-hmm.
CM Punk fought in breast, I think. Then he talked and was handsome, I think. I normally need prep for my interviews. I'm not gonna lie.
Sorry. I
don't.
Sorry, but I don't know if anyone else heard it on the microphone there, but there was just a tumbleweed. It just went by the back of the screen there. That's crazy. I never knew they had those in the UK.
Honestly, I never thought I'd see the day where I was just completely sideswiped.
Out-talked.
I'm getting I've never had apologies in my chat before because someone's being unleashed on me. I mean, like, this is a new thing on me. I've never had people say, I'm so sorry. Like, I really wanted us to start again, but I am...
Sorry, in what sense have we not started again? You're the one who's still getting flustered. I'm here answering any questions you have. You're taking the time that I'm allowing you to, like, as much as are you really the Chael Sonnen of British wrestling? You've taken that, you've twisted that into an insult, into a backhanded compliment of a question, trying to think of like a different variation, and you tried to turn it into a joke that still waiting for it to land. So if we can go back potentially, I can think of an answer if you can't think of a comparable answer for myself. Maybe a Dominic Cruz. Dominic Cruz, great talker, great fighter as well. Perhaps Sugar Sean or
Dominic Cruz. The dude that wore sunglasses to the press conference?
Continue.
I'm just Dominic Cruz got up after getting his ass kicked for 20 minutes in sunglasses and gave a philosophical seminar, but still having very much had his ass kicked. Oh, a question.
Yeah,
has this guy ever wrestled Zack Sabre? Oh no, no. He said don't. No, he said don't ask that.
Do you not understand how combat sports work? There's always going to be a winner. There's always going to be a loser. The difference between a winner and a loser is the winner continues. The loser has to recalculate, replan, and then learn how to continue.
Okay, I tell you what. I've never done this as an interviewer, but I don't see any other choice. Okay, you tell me. What do you think is a good question to ask Ian Skinner? What is a good question to ask one of the upcoming British wrestling professionals, one of the British professional wrestling stars, one of SovPro's shining lights? What would be a good question for you?
Well, here's 5 British wrestlers who inspire me, and a question to you. Name 5 British wrestlers who are the next big thing. You first, and then me. Then you can ask, because I'm not gonna let you get away with making me ask my own question.
Well, listen, I'm just saying, Simon Miller, I bigged up at the beginning of this live stream.
Sorry, I don't know why you're talking around in circles. I asked you a basic question. 5 next stars in British wrestling. Go.
I'm highlighting Simon Miller is the first of the 5. I'm trying to highlight him if you will allow me.
Sorry, Simon Miller.
Or does he not count anymore because he's been covering American wrestling for God knows how long, and he trained at Al Snow School.
Yeah, but he's not an upcoming wrestler. I mean, he's hitting his stride right now, in progress right now. But Simon Miller, when I was in wrestling diapers per se, so Simon Miller was debuting in WCPW in that Rumble. I remember. I know these facts. I've been around long enough. I've been around wrestling long enough to be, hey, I'm still a trainee wrestler. Oh my God, my favorite wrestling YouTuber, Simon Miller, he's debuted. Wow, that's really inspiring for me. Not an upcoming wrestler, someone who's debuted in the last couple years, post-pandemic. Let's hear those names.
But I feel like any name I'm going to throw out, you're going to just shoot me down. I feel again. You've shown zero regard for my show since you stepped on. There's been nothing I can do to placate you at this point.
I'm open to discussion. However, you need to be open to rebuttal as well. This is a dialogue.
I can't say anything.
Hey, if you want a monologue, go ahead. Five next up and coming British wrestling stars. Go ahead. You monologue.
I want a monologue? Someone's new to the channel. Me? Monologue? Never. Come on now. Come on. No, I'll tell you something, okay? Let me tell you. No, I can't say that. WWE in front of. Let me spit some hot fire at you for the battle rap fans. I have the utmost respect for your ability. Speaking candidly now, I have watched several of your matches today alone in order to prepare adequately, and that says something. The fact that I can't apparently. If this chat has evidence anything, I can't get away from you. But one of the things that comes across is that you're incredibly in touch with who you are. You are incredibly comfortable with who you are. You are magnanimous in who you are. And your skill in the ring serves.
Yeah, that's a good word. Magnanimous?
See, he can't even let me compliment him without him cutting
that
me
was a
off
great
every turn.
word. Magnanimous?
Are you
I need to
Googling
look
what
that
it
up.
means?
Yeah, magnanimous? Yo, that's a crazy word. That's like a dinosaur word. Magnanimosaurus. Fucking generous. That's like a synonym for generous. Come on. That's literally like...
I feel like you feel like you're being generous to the crowd. Are you saying that you're gracing people's presence expecting something in return? There's an element, an aspect of reciprocity in this?
Sorry, I kind of cut off your point there because that word was so good. Continue.
Magnanimous. He likes magnanimous. First word I've said in nearly 20 minutes that he likes. I mean, I don't even know what to do with that. Like, again, this is one of those situations where I never thought I'd have to prepare for in an interview series, let alone live stream series. I'm being cut off on my own show by someone that says I'm not being nice enough about them. I've done everything I can to make you feel welcome since you hijacked my show.
Sorry, when did I say that?
Oh, so now wait, I can't. Wait, now I'm a play-by. Now I've got to go to VAR on this.
I mean, if you can. If you wish. However, continue. You were speaking candidly.
No, do you know what?
And then you dropped magnanimous. You dropped like magnanimous, like boom.
I feel like you must have something. You didn't just come on here to screw with my shit. Surely you must have come on here for a reason. You must have something to say.
Listen. I do things for me to enjoy. That's pretty much the long and short of it.
I'm here to mess with a humble, a young aspiring YouTuber.
I mean, I'm still waiting on those 5 wrestlers, by the way. Just so you know, you started a monologue, but you still didn't answer my question.
Unbelievable.
Listen, I'm ready to make a statement, but we still need to get these questions on. We can't keep tangenting off of all these different things. People who are watching this, even on the replay or watching right now, they're going to be like, but what about those questions? What about the 5 people who inspired Ian Skinner? Which was the question you wanted me to ask me, by the way. And what about those 5 next up-and-coming wrestlers, which Simon Miller is one of them, supposedly? And then we can get to my statement.
I mean, I don't want to point this out, but you did... I mean, you've got Google open, so I suppose you can check. Up-and-coming means that he's ascending and he's yet to arrive. He has not arrived as a world champion of a promotion, and he's on the up. His stock continues to rise. I think that qualifies as an up-and-comer.
Okay, I think that is kind of like invalidating because I'm sure he has been a world champion at some promotions, but go off.
I can't believe this. I'm being criticized for my lack of prep by someone that just decided on a whim to hack someone's YouTube channel for no reason.
I'm sorry about my lack of prep. However, I have this skill called improvisation. But again, there's 2 questions to answer and then a statement. So, if we could.
Well, the only question I really have, if I'm being brutally honest with you at this point, if I can do any good in this live stream whatsoever, because I'm here to try and showcase SovPro, okay? I'm new to SovPro as a fan and as someone that wants to lend my support. On behalf of the Sovereign Professional Wrestling Nation, what are you proudest of? What are you happiest about in terms of your involvement within the promotion and your matches and what you've been able to, like you've said, what you've been able to unlock in yourself since you joined?
I think that's it. But I'm still not there. I'm still not at that proud moment. Everything's a journey. Everything's a journey right now. I've done some rest stops. I've had some overpriced bottles of Coke. I've had some Krispy Kreme donuts. I've had a KFC. But I'm not at my destination yet.
What is
The
that
journey is
destination?
the journey is still happening. We don't know what the destination is yet. Predestination, we don't know, but we are still going there, and we are working with what we have. We're working with the routes that we have, because the next step in our journey, who knows? Everything changes on a dime, on a whim. We don't know what's happening yet. The only thing you can really define is by setting your own destiny, setting your own destinations, which leads me to my statement, because a lot of people have questions about why I have this right now. Sorry, due to the Zoom blur, that is the SovPro Commonwealth Championship.
Why do you? You're not the. But you're not the.
I'm not the champion. This is Leon Slater's belt.
Why?
This is Leon Slater's.
But
He is the champion right now. Leon Slater is the Commonwealth champion. He put on a rip-roaring performance against Endakara. He put on a rip-roaring performance in that fatal four-way with Leighton Buzzard, Man Like Doris, and Ninja Mac. And then he put on a performance with Jordan Oliver. He is killing it all over the country. He is probably one of the biggest British wrestlers there is right now, signed to TNA Impact. How do I, with my record, with my standing, with all my ongoing drama in SovPro, how do I get a match with one of the best wrestlers in the country and one of the most talked about wrestlers in the world? His finisher, always cropping up on Twitter. Every week or so, someone will go, whoa, this Swanton 450 is crazy. How do you get a match with the best when you are not even considered second best? You get a token, an insurance policy, a party favor. This is not Ian Skinner's yet.
I'm at a loss for. I had it speculated that.
What's that famous Ric Flair quote?
Woo.
Again, you're not as well researched as you could be. Ric Flair. To be the man, you have to woo. There we go. That's a joke. That's a joke. Set up, misdirection. But to be the man, you have to beat the man. And once again, how does Ian Skinner get a match with Leon Slater?
I mean, I don't want to ask the too obvious question, considering that the authorities are probably going to be notified about the theft at some stage. Do you have any plans to return the belt that doesn't belong to you? Like, you can't just help yourself to someone else's championship title. That's
I'm sorry. And once again, you've definitely not researched enough Ian Skinner before looking at this, before understanding why this is happening. I have a very healthy track record of similar antics. I have a very clear through line of communication. My phone has been ringing off the hook today, but I've been busy. I've been in the gym. I've been meal prepping. Me and management will have a conversation about how we resolve this in due course. But for now, it is in my possession. What is Leon Slater's? It is in my possession.
Unbelievable. I'm in shock. You say about research. No amount of research could have prepared me for the idea that you're just going to help yourself to. That's someone's lifelong ambition you're holding in your hands. That's someone's entire reason for being, and you've just taken it like it's some sort of bartering token, like it's some kind of contractual stipulation you're going to place at someone's feet, like you're going to hold them hostage or something.
Again, you weren't there. You don't understand.
Unreal. Unbelievable. And this is after a question about I'm trying to endear you to the fans here, and you're spitting in their faces with this explanation.
I don't need you to endear me to the fans. I exist. I act. My actions will speak for themselves. I have endeared enough people as it is. I will continue to do so.
I mean, I dare not ask this question, but I feel like I have to. Like, what happens next? Like, what?
Well, again, this is a conversation to be had. It was only last night. This is a conversation to be had in the right time with the right people in the right context. This isn't the time to speak about what happens next. This is the circumstance. This is the context. We will see what happens. I have a mental outcome, but I'm not going to give my strategy away. No, I'm not going to give my planning away. I've already spoken enough about it as it is.
Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's only pertinent to wrap it up here. I can't cut him out of this stream, so I'm afraid I'm just going to have to end the stream. I mean, is there anything? Do you have? I mean, you're here, so I suppose I better treat you like a legitimate guest. Do you have anything you want to plug?
I don't know where you want anyone to find you at this point, but... Oh my god, are you gonna answer my question? It's like 5 people. 5 people, that's all you need. 5 people, and then
Listen,
we can go.
I refuse to bow down to the demands of effectively a hijacker coming on my show. I will, if you want to do this properly one time, I will prep and I will adequately answer your question. But for now, at least, I want to make sure that we get out on the right... Listen, I want to try and land on the right foot here, okay? I have no will or want to antagonize anybody, least of all someone that could whoop my ass 7 ways from Sunday. So I just want to say, listen, again, I want to give you the courtesy and the respect. Where can people find you? Where can people follow you? What people should they be cognizant of you doing next? If it's even legal to announce what you're doing next, given
Buy merch if you wish, if you like it. Yes. Support Sov Nation, SovPro. There's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of good stuff that's definitely not been covered. You could definitely do another 20 minutes on the banter bus. You could definitely do another 20 minutes on Joey Hayes versus the Collective. You could do an entire 30 minutes on the Collective and its multitude of members. Trying to think of other, like Lucia Lee and Lana Austin, the Decibels. Many conversations. A lot of time.
Well, I think as much as I would love to, again, I don't want to... I've already been showing up here. There's no doubt about it. And I began this live stream wanting to showcase SovPro. And god damn it, I will. More another day. For now, though, ladies and gentlemen, that's been the Halcyon Show. My name's been Lorne Risley. Apparently, this has been my... what do you want to call yourself? Special guest? Hijacker? Like, what are you in this stream? Like...
It's Ian Skinner.
Ian
I am E enough.
That's yeah. That's been the Halcyon Show. My name's been Lorne Risley, and I guess I'll see you if there is another show that I can guarantee the security of next time on the next edition